Oh, I am so full from my Spartan dinner.
And do you know what else? I'm fed up of my wife. She's been driving me mental.
Mental, like the mental asylum.
Which was my performance.
Whoa, don't fall off the Spartan wear.
I almost did that. Would have been crazy. Would have been mental.
Like a mental asylum. So go on then. I'm going to leave this one to you to give a short little briefing.
So from my perspective of our one, like the camping group, we didn't anticipate that there would be so much screaming and disruption. Because when we led them in, they were in one big group, and Gavin went, shine the torch, then disappeared. They disappeared in the dark, which was me. Then same with Alex, same with Jordan. And then people started getting really scared, breaking up, wanting to run out the room, which sort of disrupted it quite a lot because we had two planned ways for two groups to go, and one would stay in the middle. And then me, Alex, and Jordan would go on a clockwise rotation, scaring each group at least once ourselves. But everyone was running around the room. After crawling through the chairs, people did participate, but people were running around the room, people were running out. Zach got lost behind a curtain at one point, and so it became a lot more disrupted, and we ended up having to improvise and sort of just go around and do as we did. But apart from that disorganisation and the fact that, like the other groups, we didn't really use smell or taste, I believe that our group did quite well. But what do you think?
Kind of from my perspective, it was quite well done completely. It was like that you really focused in on the sense of sight. Sense of sight being that the lights went off, we were succumbed to darkness, and then suddenly they'd be on certain pinpoint positions. Light was also used against us, not for us, in a way where Alice actually blinded us with the light. So when you guys came from around the curtain, we were already blinded, so we're disoriented, we don't know where anything is, and then suddenly you're there, which for us was quite scary and quite terrifying.
We'd hoped that.
Yeah. The only thing is, again, with the screaming, I think if it was a very organised fashion, so if you'd taken people in smaller groups instead of one whole group, I think that what it would have done then is it would have specified on certain people or individuals as in smaller groups, meaning that you can control it better, thus controlling the screams. Because the groups that seem to, the two groups that went for the sort of scare factor, that didn't split up the groups into smaller bits and then lead them in separately, one by one or whatever, and set them up and calm them down, and then speak to them as a group, because everybody kind of just got fed in as one big cluster.
Yeah.
It means that you can calm them all down and home in on what you want to home in on.
I totally agree with you, because when we were planning it, we were originally going to bring 9 people in at once. 3 for that chair journey, 3 for that journey, and 3 for that chair journey, and then 3 in the middle, and do it in 9s. But because there were so many people and we had a limited amount of time, we thought we'll try and do it as one, but there is always the risk that people won't be able to go onto the chairs, it will become disorientated. So we took it into consideration, but didn't really do anything with that consideration as it was.
But yeah, no, it was definitely really good. It played with some sound. It could have played with sound a little bit more. You know what I mean? It was quite... There wasn't... Did you put on an atmospheric sound in the background?
No, what we had... I was singing nursery rhymes.
I know, yeah. If you put in a...
Jordan was breathing heavily and Alex was clicking the pen constantly. It's just because of the screaming, like with the other group, that couldn't be heard very well.
Things like Jordan and the clicking. If you put a sound effect of just background noise, general, like, you know, the thick... Or tap water, or the thick atmospheric noise where it's like...
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do.
That really thick, so it makes everything feel heavy. If you put in that noise, it would have created the instant tension that we don't want to scream because something could go wrong.
Yeah, and then in the feedback, someone was saying if we'd had the noise and then it suddenly cut, that would have made the atmosphere so much more tense. Like, because when something's constant, it's like a routine. If that routine breaks, it's like, what's going on here? It'll be the same with that, but more scary. One thing I don't think you experienced was with our group, we took a small Alice, who was on, from the audience's perspective, was on the right-hand side of the room with that small group there. Half the people were running around, it was quite chaotic. I was glad they were running around in some ways because it meant they were scared, because if you weren't scared you wouldn't run around like a headless chicken. But she led a small group behind the curtain in the back audience perspective right-hand corner behind it and said, I know a safe way, I know a safe way. And they all knew it wasn't a safe way, but they still went. because they were into it, is what I believe. Like, I'm not being
Oh
cocky.
no, I got
like,
told they were into it. So what they did is they walked around with her.
And then everyone else had left this room at that point. Gavin had been, this is the safe way out. There were some people lurking around. Like I said, Zach was lost behind a curtain. But in the corner parting, Alice brought them through back into the room. But they were standing in the corner, and then Alice did a very slow strobe with the torch, and we walked directly towards them. So it was like we were here, then here, then here, then in your face, and then they ran so fast out that room, they knocked all three of us onto the floor. And there, I just want to say about that bit really, because not everyone got to experience it.
I thought that one was quite clever because it singled out individuals, and what it did is that it made them feel ultimately unsafe, so unsafe that they felt that they had to run and they had to come out of their comfort zone, which I felt for me was incredibly successful.
So
in that sort of terms. So
in terms of sight, what we've got for sight, we've got the torches,
the blindness,
got the people, the blindness. Touch, we've got us touching you,
physically touching us,
and then the floor going under the chairs, like the uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
That was touch essentially.
Yeah, because it's
hearing can be improved because of the screaming, but there was noises going on. Taste,
nothing to do with taste.
Smell,
not really anything to do with smell other than.
But do you know what we forgot to mention?
What?
The bit at the beginning, you know, when he was shining the torch at us.
Yeah.
The things we were doing.
Oh yeah.
How Gavin explained that.
Exactly.
He told you, like, in a safe way, like, oh, this person likes a hair fetish, this person likes children, which got a laugh, but then they weren't so much laughing
when the doll was being eaten.
When I was eating the teddy bear.
No one liked teddy bears being eaten, even Spartans.
And so it was. I liked the way that. I mean, what do you think? The way they went from this sort of calm atmosphere of being explained to, and you're being like a bit like, oh crap, and then suddenly they're all gone.
It was.
James said that
for me,
the scariest bit was when they disappeared. Not
for me. It was more. I knew where you'd gone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you hadn't walked backwards. I saw you kind of walk around the curtain, sort of thing, because I was aware of the sort of space. But that's not really your fault too much. That's just
more the lighting from outside.
The lighting from outside, but you know, I mean, I was kind of a bit shook by it, but it was the fact that it was just the scream. Yeah. And especially for Katie herself, she just broke down into like a sort of ball because the scream carried down with her, and she believed it so much because she doesn't like these sort of situations, and this isn't what she sort of liked.
It was based for scaring everyone.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
We knew that people like Katie and Catherine
exactly.
And stuff like that.
It works with them, and that's what you played on. You played on it so well.
Played on fear. Fear is a great emotion.
It's the easiest one to play on.
Total theatre is really effective when playing on people's emotion of fear, because fear is so easy to channel. And crying, not as much, not through sadness.
Because there's
happiness, not so much, because people need to be really happy to be happy.
But it's fear, danger. People fear danger. They don't want danger around them.
And they fear the unknown, and they had no idea. Well, apart from you, they had no idea that we were going to go and that we were going to.
And I think that's one thing that we haven't quite touched on all of the performances that we've seen or we saw. They really do play on the unknown, the not knowing of if we're going to be safe, if we're going to be happy, are we going to be free. It plays on everything, you know. It's the unknown of something going right or wrong in terms of like the Great Escape, or the terms of is this actually a real place, the unknown of not knowing what this camp is like. Again, the same with the asylum. What's going to happen? We don't know what's going to happen. It's the unknown.
And it's
mental. So that's what it's all about.
So this is the last. What is this thing? What is this?
Is it what have we been speaking to? I thought we was talking to a sundial.
Sundial?
A sundial. What is this? This is some god witch work.
Is this Zeus?
Zeus? Zeus? Zeus, is that you? Zeus?